In short, Mr. Buffett, how can I make $30 billion?
I mean, if I were getting out of school today and I had $10,000 to invest, I'd...
Believe it or not, the billionaire Warren Buffett was not born rich. He started with a small sum just like most of us. Today we'll look at clips from his annual shareholder meetings where he reveals how he turned small amounts of money of $10,000 or less into $1 million fortune. Enjoy the video.
My question is, if you're investing a small sum today, which approach would you use?
Well, I would use the approach that I think I'm using now of trying to search out businesses where I think they're selling at the lowest price relative to the discounted cash they would produce in the future. If I were working with a small amount of money, the universe would be huge compared to the universe of possible ideas I work with now.
So Buffett is talking about the fact that he would have a lot more opportunities to invest with a small amount of money. That means that we as small investors have a huge advantage over the huge asset managers. After all, how could Warren Buffett with 100 billion in cash invest in a company that is only worth 50 million? It's like trying to squeeze an elephant into a keyhole. It just doesn't work.
You mentioned that 56 to 69 was the best period. Actually, my best period was before that. It was from right after I met Ben Graham in early 1951. But from the end of 1950 through the next 10 years, actually returns averaged about 50% a year. And I think they were 37 points better than the Dow per year, something like that. But I was working with a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of money. And so I would pour through volumes of businesses, and I would find one or two that I could put $10,000 into or $15,000 into that were just ridiculous. They were ridiculously cheap. And obviously, as the money increased, the universe of possible ideas started shrinking dramatically.
So Buffett back then searched all the companies he could find in the listings to filter out the best one or two. Today it's much easier. I can set my 3 or 4 investment metrics, enter those into my screener, and get spit out all the companies worldwide that fit my criteria. You can do that, for example, at Simply Wall Street, where I do it too. The link for this platform, including 40% discount on the annual membership, you can find below in the video description.
The times were also better for doing it in that time. But I think if you're working with a small amount of money with exactly the same background that Charlie and I have, and same ideas, same whatever ability we have, I think you can make very significant sums. But as soon as you start getting the money up into the millions, many millions, the curve on expectable results falls off just dramatically. But that's the nature of it. When you get up to things you can put millions of dollars into, you've got a lot of competition looking at that, and they're not looking as I did when I started. When I started, I went through the pages of the manuals page by page. I mean, I probably went through 20,000 pages in the Moody's Industrial, Transportation, Banks, and Finance manuals, and I did it twice. And I actually, looked at every business. I didn't look very hard at some. Well, that's not a practical way to invest tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. So I would say if you're working with a small sum of money and you're really interested in the business and willing to do the work, you will find something. There's no question about it in my mind. You will find some things that promise very large returns compared to what we will be able to deliver with large sums of money.
The most important takeaway I have: invest in small or medium-sized companies if you want to beat the market in the long run. Part of the reason to look for smaller companies is the greater potential to grow. A company like Ford, which already supplies the worldwide market with cars, has a harder time growing than a small company that currently only sells products in its own country. In addition, smaller companies have a greater chance of flying under the radar of the many financial analysts. That means there is a greater chance that the market is inefficient here, which means nice discounts and great deals. Of course, small companies also come with a lot more risk, which is why it's important to keep an eye on the financials here. That means low debt and ideally plenty of cash on the side as a backup for worse times.
Good afternoon, Mr. Buffett and Mr. Munger. My name is Grant Morgan. I'm here from New York City. Earlier you had acknowledged that it is a more difficult investment and business environment today than it was when you first started out. My question is, if you were starting out again today in your early 30s, what would you do differently or the same in today's environment to replicate your success? In short, Mr. Buffett, how can I make $30 billion?
Start young. Charlie's always said that the big thing about it is we started building this little snowball on top of a very long hill. So we started at a very early age in rolling the snowball down. And of course, the snowball, the nature of compound interest is it behaves like a snowball of sticky snow. And the trick is to have a very long hill, which means either starting very young or living to be very old. I would do it exactly the same way if I were doing it in the investment world. I mean, if I were getting out of school today and I had $10,000 to invest, I'd start with the A's. I would start going right through companies, and I probably would focus on smaller companies because I would be working with smaller sums, and there's more chance that something is overlooked in that arena. And as Charlie has said earlier, it won't be like doing that in 1951 when you could leaf through and find all kinds of things that just leapt off the page at you. But that's the only way to do it. I mean, you have to buy businesses or little pieces of businesses called stocks, and you have to buy them at attractive prices, and you have to buy them you have to buy into good businesses, and that advice will be the same 100 years from now in terms of investing. That's what it's all about, and you can't expect anybody else to do it for you.
The footage of this shareholder meeting at which Buffett speaks is from 1999, so just before the dot-com bubble burst. And he talked about how it was much harder to find cheap companies at that point than it was 40 years ago in the 50s and 60s. But he also says, and this is important, that advice would be no different in 100 years from today. There is this basic principle on which everything is built, and that is to buy companies that are priced below their actual value. And he doesn't try to find companies that are slightly undervalued, but he goes over all the companies that are out there and picks the few that are highly undervalued. So he takes advantage of the greatest upside potential and gets the greatest returns.
When I first visited Geico in January of 1951, I went back to Columbia, and that rest of that year I subsequently went down to Blythe and Company, and actually to one other firm that was a leading, Geyer and Company, that was a leading analyst in insurance. And I thought I'd discovered this wonderful thing, and I'd see what these great investment houses that specialized in insurance stocks said, and they said I didn't know what I was talking about. It wasn't of any interest to them. You've got to follow your own. You've got to learn what you know and what you don't know, and within the arena of what you know, you have to pursue it very vigorously and act on it when you find it. And you can't look around for people to agree with you. You can't look around for people to even know what you're talking about. You have to think for yourself. And if you do, you'll find things.
What he tells is incredibly exciting, because private investors today are still being talked into it. They don't know what they are doing and should leave the investing to the big guys. Buffett made one of the best investments he ever made in 1951 with the auto insurer Geico. And what did the insurance industry analysts say? Buffett had no idea what he was talking about. And in the end, the 20-year-old Buffett was proven right against all those specialized analysts. That means if you professionally understand a certain industry better than the analysts, if you have insights that other people don't have, that can be a huge investment advantage. Not only Buffett, but also Peter Lynch preached it: only buy companies you can understand, because then you also have the confidence in the company to hold on to your shares when the price crashes. You can distinguish whether the price collapse has something to do with the business or whether it's the nature up and down of the stock market.
Charlie?
Yeah, the hard part of the process for most people is the first $100,000. If you have a standing start at zero, getting together $100,000 is a long struggle for most people. And I would argue that the people who get there relatively quickly are helped if they're passionate about being rational, very eager and opportunistic, and steadily underspend their income grossly. I think those three factors are very helpful.
Charlie Munger lists 3 important traits here for making a fortune out of little money. First, spending less than you earn, that is putting money aside in the first place. Second, behave rationally, which is often harder than it sounds, especially when the media is in panic mode and the stock market is crashing. And third, to have the ambition to follow through with your strategy. That means buying undervalued companies and holding them when they fall, and only buying when there are real opportunities. This requires a lot of ambition and a positive attitude. What is very encouraging to me personally, he says the first $100,000 is the hardest. So to get the snowball rolling first, that's the biggest challenge. Once it starts rolling, it's hard to stop it, because with more money, it's easier to make even more money. What do you think about the tips of the great investors Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger? Feel free to write it in the comments below. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Ciao.